We all like to think we'd spot evil a mile away. You know, black cloak, creepy laugh, maybe lightning in the background. But here's the thing, evil rarely walks in looking like a movie villain. It's quieter, it's smiling, and sometimes it's sitting right next to you. Today, I'm giving you 10 evidence signs, but let's start with the 5 that should make you stop, think, and step back fast. You ever notice how some people never actually tell you a straight up lie, but something about what they say just feels off? That's the thing about people with bad intentions. They're not always going to come at you with a bold-faced lie. They're smarter than that. They take the truth, bend it just enough so it still looks believable, but now it serves their purpose. And if you're not paying attention, you'll buy into it because technically nothing they said is wrong. It's like you ask them, where were you last night? And they answer, oh, I was with some friends. Sounds innocent, right? But the truth, they left out which friends, what they were doing. That's where the real story lies. They didn't lie. They just handed you a puzzle with half the pieces missing, hoping you won't notice. And most of the time, we don't because we're trusting. And here's the thing, they count on that trust. They use it like a tool, or more accurately, like a weapon. They know your brain will fill in the blanks in their favor. That's human nature. We don't want to think badly about people we know, so we connect the dots in a way that feels safe. They just make sure the dots lead you right where they want you. You start to see this pattern when you catch them being very selective with their words. When they tell a story, there's always just enough detail to sound convincing, but never enough for you to verify it. They'll talk about what happened, but not when it happened. They'll tell you who said something, but never exactly what was said. It's all fog and no shape. And if you press for clarity, they get defensive. They'll act like you're the one making it weird. That's another sign you're suddenly the bad guy for asking a simple question. Why are you being so suspicious? They'll say, or you don't trust me. And now, instead of focusing on the fact that they dodged the truth, you're busy explaining yourself, defending why you even asked. They've successfully flipped the script and you didn't even realize it happened. But here's where it gets really dangerous when they start mixing in the truth about other things to make you believe the lie about this thing. They'll say something you know is 100% correct and then slide in something false right next to it. Our brains have a hard time separating the two, so we end up accepting the whole package as true. It's manipulation dressed up as conversation. And let me tell you, this isn't about being paranoid. This is about being awake. Because a person like this doesn't just want to win an argument or save face, they want control. If they can make you doubt what's real, they can make you rely on them for the version of reality they choose to give you. That's power. And for someone with a dark agenda, that's the whole game. Think about it. If someone can make you question your own memory, your own judgment, even your own senses, then they've got you exactly where they want you. You're less likely to challenge them. You're more likely to second guess yourself. And that's when they can start steering your life without you even realizing you've handed them the wheel. And the scariest part, at first, they don't even have to twist things by much. Just a little nudge here, a tiny edit there. Because every time you let it slide, every time you accept their half truth without digging deeper, you're giving them permission to do it again and again until one day the truth is whatever they say it is, and you can't tell the difference anymore. So if you start noticing that what someone says never quite lines up with the whole picture, if there's always a gap, always a detail conveniently missing, or always a reason why you're overthinking it, you need to pay attention. Because the truth, when it's genuine, doesn't need adjusting. It doesn't need to be edited, repackaged, or sold to you. It just stands there on its own. And the moment someone starts bending it, they've already shown you who they are. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them. There's a certain kind of person who can make you feel like you're losing your mind without ever raising their voice. They don't have to yell. They don't have to curse. All they have to do is make you start questioning yourself. And when that happens, you're not just doubting what happened. You're doubting your own ability to know what's true. It usually starts small. You remember them saying something hurtful, and when you bring it up, they look at you like you're crazy. I never said that. or you must have misheard me. At first, you think, okay, maybe I did mishear. We all make mistakes. But then it happens again and again until one day you realize you're apologizing for things you didn't even do. This is not by accident. It's intentional. They plant little seeds of doubt in your mind and then they water them every chance they get. They'll deny something you know happened. They'll tell you you're being too sensitive or overreacting as if your feelings are just wild animals you can't control. And slowly you start to believe them. You start to think, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am imagining things. That's the trap. Because once they convince you that your own memory, your own instincts can't be trusted, now you have to lean on them for the version of reality they're willing to give you. They become the filter between you and the truth. And when that happens, they own the narrative. The scariest part is how subtle it can be. They won't come out and say, you're crazy. No, that would be too obvious. Instead, it's, that's not how I remember it, with a shrug. Or you always seem to read too much into things. On the surface, it doesn't sound like much, but over time, those little jabs build up like layers of dust until you're buried under them and you can't even see the original version of events anymore. It's like someone constantly moving the furniture in your mind. You walk into the room and something's just a little bit off. The chair's not where it used to be. The table's been shifted an inch to the left. At first, you think you're imagining it. But then after enough of these small changes, you're standing there in a room you barely recognize, wondering how you got there. And here's the thing, healthy people don't make you feel like that. A healthy person will hear you out. Even if they disagree, they'll acknowledge your perspective. They won't make you feel like you've lost touch with reality just for having an opinion, but someone with a darker agenda. They'll make you doubt not only what you saw, but who you are. They might even turn it into a performance. You bring up something they said, and they act shocked, offended, maybe even a little hurt. Wow, I can't believe you think I'd say something like that. Now you're the one feeling guilty. You end up apologizing for confronting them and the original issue. It never gets addressed. That's not resolution. That's manipulation. Over time, this kind of behavior eats away at you. You stop speaking up when something bothers you because you already know how it's going to play out. You'll be told you're wrong, you're mistaken, you're overreacting. So you start keeping things to yourself. And that's exactly what they want. Silence. Because silence gives them free rein to keep doing what they've been doing. The truth is, the more you doubt yourself, the more they can control you. And that's the end game for them. Not just to win arguments, not just to avoid blame, but to keep you in a state where you're too unsure of yourself to challenge them. Because a person who doesn't trust their own judgment won't stand up for themselves. So if you start noticing a pattern where you walk away from conversations feeling confused, where you find yourself questioning things you were certain about 5 minutes ago, you need to stop and pay attention. That confusion you feel, that's not weakness. That's a warning. And when someone keeps making you question your own reality, the reality is they're not someone you can trust. Some people are generous because it's who they are. They give without keeping score, without expecting anything in return. But then there's the other kind, the ones who make kindness feel like a loan you didn't ask for. And the bill? It always comes due. They'll offer to help you move, lend you money, drive you to the airport at 5 a.m. And at first you think, wow, that's so nice of them. But what you don't see right away is the invisible contract they just slid across the table. Because in their mind, every favor is an investment. And one day you're going to pay it back, not with money, but with compliance. It doesn't even have to be a big ask. It might start small. Hey, remember when I helped you with that project? I need you to do this thing for me. That's not unusual between friends, but with them, it doesn't stop. Suddenly, you're rearranging your schedule, making decisions you don't want to make because you feel like you owe them. And if you hesitate, if you say no, they'll remind you, not always directly, but in those little guilt-laced comments. I mean, I was there for you when you needed me, but it's fine. I get it. You're busy. Now you're not just saying no to a favor. You're saying no to their generosity, their sacrifice, their image of being the good one. And that's not a comfortable place to stand, is it? That's the hook. They use kindness to put you in their debt. because debt changes the dynamic. Suddenly, they're in the position of power, and you're the one keeping track, not of what they've done, but of how you'll make it right. The relationship stops being about connection and starts being about balance sheets. Here's the difference between genuine kindness and this kind of manipulation. Real kindness disappears once it's given. It doesn't hang over you like a cloud. It doesn't pop back up 3 months later in an argument. But when kindness has strings attached, those strings are designed to pull you where they want you to go. It's also worth noticing how selective their generosity is. They're not helping everyone. They're helping you or a certain few people in ways that can be cashed in later. That's why they don't mind going out of their way. It's not wasted effort if they see it as an investment. And the more you accept, the tighter the net becomes. Over time, you might start feeling this unspoken obligation to say yes to them. They need a ride. You cancel your plans. They want you to back them up in a disagreement. You do it even if you don't agree, because saying no feels like betrayal, and they make sure it feels that way. That's the genius and the cruelty of it. They're not forcing you, not technically. They're just making the alternative so uncomfortable that compliance feels like the only option. Sometimes they'll even frame their kindness as proof of the bond between you. Of course, I helped you. That's what friends do. And at face value, that sounds warm. But when the time comes for them to collect, that same line gets flipped. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me. Now it's not just about the favor. Now it's about your loyalty, your character, your worth as a person. And if you start to pull away, you might notice something. They stop being generous. In fact, they might even withhold things you used to count on. That's because the kindness was never about helping you. It was about controlling you. Once it stops serving that purpose, it disappears. This is why it's so important to watch the patterns, not just the moments. Anyone can be kind in the moment, but genuine kindness doesn't keep a scoreboard. It doesn't become a bargaining chip in some unspoken game. The moment it starts to feel like you're paying interest on someone's generosity, you're not in a healthy dynamic anymore, because real kindness frees you. Fake kindness owns you. And if someone's kindness comes with strings attached, those strings are just chains in disguise. Some people have an incredible talent for avoiding responsibility. No matter what happens, no matter how clear it is that they messed up, somehow the blame always ends up on someone else's shoulders, often yours. And the way they pull it off. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's so smooth you don't even realize they've handed you the weight until you're the one carrying it. You call them out on something. Maybe they said something hurtful. Maybe they dropped the ball on a promise. And instead of owning it, they pivot. Well, if you hadn't reacted like that, I wouldn't have said what I said. Or I was only late because you didn't give me enough notice. It's never, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's always, you did this, so I had no choice. That's the thing. An apology is simple when it's honest. You just admit you messed up, say you're sorry, and change the behavior. But people like this treat an apology like it's a confession in court. If they admit fault, even for a second, it threatens their control. So instead, they redirect the heat away from themselves and onto you. And they're clever about it. Sometimes they'll make it sound like they're being reasonable. I mean, I could have handled it better, but you have to admit you were being difficult. That little phrase, you have to admit, is a setup. Because now you're not talking about their mistake anymore. Now you're defending your own behavior. They've successfully changed the subject without you even realizing it. Over time, this constant redirecting starts to wear you down. You might even start thinking, maybe I really am the problem. And once that thought takes root, they don't have to work as hard to dodge accountability. You'll start handing it to them yourself. You'll apologize first. You'll take the blame before the conversation even gets there, just to avoid the exhausting mental gymnastics they put you through every time you bring something up. They'll also use timing to their advantage. If you try to talk about something that happened, they might bring up something you did weeks or months ago, completely unrelated, just to level the playing field. Suddenly, it's not about the present issue. It's about all the ways you've supposedly messed up too. It's a form of scoreboard keeping, and it's designed to make sure they never have to stand alone in the wrong. The problem is when someone never apologizes, they never change. Why would they? In their mind, they've never done anything wrong. And when you're in a relationship, personal, professional, or otherwise, with someone like that, you end up doing all the emotional heavy lifting. You're the one fixing problems. You're the one smoothing things over. And they're the one benefiting from your willingness to make peace at any cost. You can tell you're dealing with this kind of person when you leave conversations feeling frustrated, but also guilty, even though you were the one who brought up the issue in the first place. That's not normal. Healthy conflict leaves you feeling heard, even if it's uncomfortable. This leaves you feeling like you lost a game you didn't know you were playing. It's tempting to think you can somehow get through to them. If you just explain it the right way, if you just show them enough proof, if you just keep calm. But people like this aren't confused. They're not misunderstanding you. They understand exactly what they're doing. Accountability to them isn't something to step into. It's something to dodge. And they've been practicing that dodge their whole lives. If you pay close attention, you'll notice something else. They don't have a problem pointing out other people's faults. They can spot someone else's mistake from a mile away. But when the mirrors turn toward them, suddenly it's foggy, cracked, or somehow your fault, the mirror exists at all. And that's the truth about people who never apologize and always redirect. They're not trying to solve the problem. They're trying to survive it by making sure it lands on anyone but them. When someone refuses to take responsibility for their actions, what they're really telling you is that they have no intention of changing. You can learn a lot about someone by watching how they respond when things go wrong for somebody else. Most people, even if they don't know the person that well, will feel some level of empathy. They'll wince when someone stumbles. They'll show concern when someone loses something important. It's just human nature to care. But there are people who don't feel that. In fact, they feel the opposite. They get something out of watching someone else hurt. It's not always obvious. They might not stand there with a big grin while someone's life falls apart. Sometimes it's more subtle. It's the extra beat they take before saying something supportive. It's the way they ask a question that sounds concerned, but is really just fishing for more details so they can savor the drama. Or it's that slight smirk you catch when they think no one's looking. For them, someone else's pain isn't something to avoid. It's entertainment. It's validation. It's a way to feel more powerful without having to lift a finger. If you're down, they're up. If you're struggling, they're steady. And that imbalance makes them feel in control. Sometimes they'll even disguise it as just joking. You tell them about something that upset you, and instead of empathy, you get a sarcastic comment, a little dig, or a laugh that lingers too long. And if you call them out, they flip it on you. Relax. I was just kidding. But jokes about your pain aren't jokes. They're little windows into what they really think and how they really feel. Other times, they play the role of the concerned friend or co-worker, but deep down, they're hoping things get worse, not better. That way, they can keep you in a position where you're vulnerable, where you need help, where you're not a threat. Because in their world, life is a competition and your loss is their win. You can also spot it when something bad happens to someone they don't like, or even someone they're jealous of. They might not celebrate out loud, but their relief shows. It's in the way they talk about it. The casual, well, that's what happens tone, or the half smile they can't quite hide. It's like a tiny leak in the mask they wear every day, letting you see what's really underneath. And here's the part that makes it tricky. They're not always the ones causing the hurt. Sometimes they just wait for it to happen naturally, then take advantage of it. They might spread the story a little wider. They might frame it in a way that makes you look worse. They might even offer to help you in a way that keeps you dependent on them. It's not about fixing the problem. It's about keeping you in it. When you're around someone like this long enough, you start to notice that you don't feel safe sharing your struggles with them. You find yourself editing your words, keeping the details light, or just saying everything's fine when it's not. And that's your instincts kicking in. That's the part of you that recognizes they're not really on your side, even if they've never said it outright. The truth is, empathy isn't just about what people say when you're hurting. It's about what they feel. And if someone's first instinct is to enjoy your pain rather than ease it, that's not just a flaw in their character. That's a sign of something much darker. Because when someone takes pleasure in watching others hurt, they're showing you exactly how much they value humanity. And if they don't value it in others, they won't value it in you. The truth is, evil doesn't always walk in wearing a mask or carrying a weapon. Most of the time, it slips into the room quietly, dressed up as charm, kindness, or even friendship. It twists the truth just enough to keep you confused. It chips away at your confidence until you're not sure what's real. It gives with one hand while keeping a grip on you with the other. It dodges responsibility like it's allergic to it. And sometimes it smiles while watching you hurt. You can't control who walks into your life, but you can control who gets to stay. Pay attention to the signs. Trust what you feel in your gut, because the sooner you see evil for what it is, the sooner you can do the one thing it hates the most: walk away.